Welcome to the Studio Chat podcast. My name is Barbara Thompson. Each week, I'll be bringing you a self-care expert or a message to help you to discover how to live your best life and understand your mind-body connection. This month, I'm going to be dedicating each and every episode to my beautiful dog, Maisie, who passed away a month ago. She was my self-care ambassador for my business, but also on every single podcast for the last 52 episodes. She has been right by my side for each and every episode I've recorded and with all of my guests. And one thing I've learned about love and unconditional love is something that Maisie showed me. She showed up every day for me. It didn't matter what I was doing, how I looked, how I felt. That beautiful dog was just my best mate, and she was always there. And it has led me in these last 4 weeks to a journey of healing, discovering more about myself, learning how to process my feelings through grief, but also just learn more about myself. And this dedication is for you, Maisie, and this month, every episode is about healing, and about spirituality, and about anything that I think that my girl would like you to hear. So, sending big love to my Maisie. I miss you a lot, and these episodes are just for you. Hello, everybody. It's so nice to see you here. Welcome back to the Studio Chat podcast. This morning, and I'm going to say, I think it's evening where you are, Tina. Welcome to the Studio Chat podcast.
Yeah, hi, Barbara. Thank you. It is. Sun is setting over here in the United States. I'm in Maryland on the East Coast, so we are winding down our day.
Nice, and we are beginning our day. And as I look out the window, it's a bit stormy here, so we're coming into winter season. So that's yay for us. I look at you and be like, oh, you guys are coming into summer now, aren't you? Well, yeah.
Yes. Yep. Best time of year.
I know. So I'd love for you to share with my listeners, Tina, just a bit about what you do and why you do it.
Sure. So I am an inner child healing coach. I started the company, The Burnt Bean, a couple years ago. And I work with women who are exhausted, they're burnt out, frustrated, and I help them to uncover their deepest wounds and messaging that has them living their life in the margins, right? So they're kind of playing small and not asking for what it is that they want or living the life that they dream of because either they think that they don't deserve it or they don't know how to create it for themselves. And so in my work as an inner child healing coach and for some a parent coach, I provide strategies and resources to help women build a life that lets them live in alignment with their values and the vision that they hold for themselves. And then you had asked how I got into the work, right?
Yeah. First of all, before you tell us how you got into it, I love the name. I love the name, the burnt bean,
So the burnt bean. Actually, I lost my cousin to a drug addiction about 5 years ago. And my last conversation with her, we were talking about like what we wanted for our lives. And I have this dream of starting a coffee shop. And the one day shortly after she passed away, like the name just kind of popped into my head of like, here I'm doing this work about being burnt out, about being exhausted and overwhelmed. But also like I dream of this coffee shop, this place where I can support people in the addiction community, where I can support the community itself and healing. And I just have like this beautiful vision. And so the burnt bean, that's where it came from.
That is so powerful. I'm really sorry, first of all, to hear about your cousin. And I'm just, sorry for that hole and that loss, because it wasn't that long ago that happened. And the beauty of pain when you've gone through something like that and your vision is just so strong. Like what a beautiful way of giving back, but also having your cousin with you every single day.
Every day. Yes.
I love that. It just, see what I mean? I just had this feeling that there was more to the name than that's why I had to ask. And with your accent, you could say it all day and I love it. Like, I'm like, I butcher it and then you say it. I'm like, oh, it sounds so nice when you say it. Like I love it.
Well,
Love
thank you.
it. Yeah. So that's why you got into doing what you do, or is there another aspect too of?
So the other aspect is that I became a mom. And my daughter, first off, she's my greatest teacher. And so when I was in the early stages of becoming a parent, so stepping into motherhood, I had this idea of what motherhood would look like, and what was unfolding in front of me was so different.
Wow.
I thought that I would be like this present and patient and just like doting on my child. And in actuality, I was a stressed out single mom with 2 jobs, no time for any of her childhood. And I was a grump. I was not the mom that I wanted to be. And one day she called me out. Like she had this moment where she was just being a toddler. Kids are kids. And I was late for work and rushing to get out of the house, and I lost it on her. And she called me out and told me, "You hurt my feelings when you yell at me like that." She was 3. And
Wow.
I was like, first I was completely like struck. Like, first off, who are you talking to? Right? Because if I had talked to my parents like that, like I would have been sent to my room. I would have gotten a spanking, and it wouldn't have ended well for me. But there was something inside of me that was like, I need to listen to her. And what I've come to realize now, that was she's 10 now. So that was like 7-8 years ago. And what I've come to realize is that in that moment, when she was speaking up for herself, she was speaking to my inner child. She was the voice of my inner child saying, like, this is not okay for you to be treating yourself like this. This is not what you wanted. And it was just a really profound moment that that afternoon, I called a therapist. And by the end of the week, I was in therapy. This was obviously back when getting into therapy office was a little bit easier. I don't know how it is over in Australia. But here in the States, there's like a 6-month wait list for therapy. But I called a therapist that afternoon, and 3 days later, I was sitting in a therapist's office saying, I need to understand what's going on here, because this is not okay.
Yeah, I'm curious to know if before that moment of when your daughter called you out, in your mind, had you ever thought about talking to someone, or had you ever thought about therapy before this?
No, I didn't. Because it was the culture. I mean, here in the States, it's becoming a little bit more, talking about mental health is becoming more accepted. There's therapy commercials on television, and a lot of like male therapy, talking like men should also go to therapy type of commercials. But it's becoming more accepted now. So prior to this moment, I never considered it. It was never something that I thought I needed. I was raised to, you keep powering through, you suck it up, you just one foot in front of the other, and this is what life is, and you just accept it.
Yeah, I can relate to that very, very much. And you don't share your problems, or from the outside world, people see it as problems, or if you haven't thought of reaching out for help, it is a problem and it is a burden, and you keep pushing it down. I think it's almost a worldwide thing. I know in New Zealand and in Australia, it's very, I've been vocal on my podcast a little bit, but personally, I did therapy for about 3.5 years, once or twice a week. I never missed a beat. And I did the homework that came with it. So that's a lot of work. Now, that was what I needed. I don't want anyone to listen to this going, oh, that's definitely no way. you need to find someone that you can talk to. And I went through a few people before I found someone that was like, oh, you're my person. Because therapy is not what anyone thinks it is. And when you've got a good person to talk to, some weeks are hard, but most of the time it's you build a relationship, and it's a nice, safe space to be able to almost offload. We all need to offload, and that's how feelings and big emotions and big decisions in our life, we don't have enough time to sit and be in it and stew in it and think about it and the pros and cons. Some person at some stage decided that, especially us as women, yes, we can have it all, but for us to look like we're achieving, we have to be burnt out, and we have to be tired, and we have to be selfless, and it can never be about us. And when you bring up the word inner child, so I've done a little bit of work on it too. It's so powerful, but it really can freak people out because I think there's sometimes a little bit of a spiritual component too, a little bit in the inner child. But it's also, we've all got stuff. And that's what I say to a lot of my clients. Guarantee you, hands down, every single person you look at today, every person you see out the window, every person you drive past in the car is working on something. And the people you think that if they're shit together are the ones that really don't. And I don't want to poo-poo on anyone. I just want to bring this conversation out and make it real. And you know, you just never know. It's becoming more aware now, as you said, like in the States and here, people are talking about it. It is harder to get into therapy, but it is just not what, if you find a good therapist, and there's many out there that aren't good, and that's really hard for me. I've had an influx of clients lately that have come in and really beautifully been brave enough, well, not brave, brave's not the right word, but being vulnerable enough to share with me their experiences before they've seen me. And we have a code of practice, we have a code of conduct, and we've got ethics we have to follow. And people out there are not following these and can really, so that's the hard thing is when people decide to, oh, I'm going to go and ask for help, one or two things may happen. They may find someone that isn't going to help them, or it just takes a while to find your person. So I'm really glad we're talking about this today, and thank you for sharing, because from your perspective, it wasn't even on your radar. Mine was on my radar for a really long time, and I kept repeating the same pattern, and and again, we always put it on, oh, what's wrong with me? And you laugh about it. It's not funny, but you kind of go, you know, you're sabotaging yourself, or you know, you keep repeating something and you just blame yourself, and I'm weak, or there's something wrong with me, or I'm not good enough. And then you just keep wearing that to the point where you just go, I can't do this anymore. But it's beautiful because you're coming from a different place than I was. You're coming from a place where it wasn't even in your radar, didn't think about it. And all of a sudden your daughter says one beautiful sentence to you and you're like, wow.
Yeah, it was, I mean, as you were talking, I was thinking about the person I was before that moment. Before I realized, like, oh, this is not how it has to be. I can create that relationship with her that I thought that I would have, but that takes work. And that takes me getting to know myself and understanding what it is that's going on for me that's standing in my way of this relationship. The messages and the beliefs that I was carrying about, like, first, just as a mom, that I'm the mom, what I say goes, right? That's how I was raised. That's whatever an adult says, that is what you do. You don't ask why, you don't push back, you just do it. And so when I had a child who was pushing back and questioning why she had to do something, the phrase, like, because I said so, because I'm mom. And then when it boiled over to, like, me screaming at her and her saying, no, this is not okay. That was like you know what, you're right. This is not okay. And it really called on me to question all of my beliefs. And so it didn't just help me in my parenting, but I was a single mom then. I am now happily married in a beautiful relationship that is supportive. The communication flows. Like it is a relationship that I never thought existed because I had this model of what men looked like based on my childhood, based on the father figures in my life when I was growing up. My dad was not a part of my life. And actually there were no men in my family because the men had the kids and the men disappeared. Like that was how it went. And so that was my expectation of what a man does. A man is not committed to a relationship. And so the work that I did for myself not only changed my relationship with my child, but it changed every aspect of my life. And that's the part that kind of blew me away, because I went into it with like, I need to do this so that I could be better for my child. And it turned out, no, you need to do this so that you could be the best version of yourself.
Wow. It's really cool, isn't it? That's so awesome. So we're going to talk about, I just have to sit with it for a moment because that's so powerful. And that works for anyone. I think even if you're not a mum, this stuff is really powerful. So what we're going to talk about today, it's for mums and for anyone in general, I think, right?
It really is. You don't have to be a mom or a parent in order to do inner child work. I do think that it is easier to see your shadow parts when you are a mom, because your kids are going to hold that mirror up to you. We were talking about that before we started recording, right? And it is very true. But this is work that you can do before becoming a parent if you are on that path to become a parent, or if you're not somebody who is going to become a parent, you could still do this work because it really is for everybody.
Yeah. So this word inner child, what is it?
So you kind of touched on it a little bit, that it's like this kind of carries this spiritual connotation with it, because when you think about the inner child, we're basically kind of separating a part of ourself from our adult self. But the way that I think about it is that you are all of the ages that you've ever been. And so the inner child is the part of you that developed between birth and like 7 or 8 years old. And it stores all of your childhood emotional experiences. So when you're a child, you are completely dependent on your caregivers, right? You need them for food, for water, for shelter. You need connection, right? It is scientifically known that humans need connection for survival. And as children, as we're starting to take in the world and we're paying attention to what's going on with our caregivers, anything that threatens that connection to our caregivers, anything that makes them turn away from us, our subconscious internalizes as, I shouldn't do that thing. I shouldn't feel this way. My emotions are too big. It attaches like some message to it, and it starts to shove down that experience as a protection mechanism. And so the inner child is essentially like this shadow part of ourself. It's where all of our emotions that were too overwhelming, or emotions that we didn't have a trusted caregiver or an adult to help us process, that like we felt like we were alone in those emotions, that all got shoved down. But it also contains our parents' shadows, right? So back in the 80s and 90s and, back before now, really, before therapy was a thing, our parents didn't do inner child work. They didn't do shadow work. And so they parented us through their own childhood. They came into parenting with their own experiences, and they just passed down their understanding of what it is acceptable, what's not acceptable, based on how they were raised. And so all of that got stored in us somewhere. And so now, as an adult, every event, every experience, anything that goes on in your life that is similar to an experience that you had as a child is going to trigger those emotions that got stored inside of you. And it's going to elicit a similar reaction to what you would have had as a child, because there's a part of you that's still 5 years old. There's that part of you that is stored inside of you from the very first time that you felt betrayed or embarrassed. And so now as an adult, when you feel that, your mind and your body react as though you are still that child, because your subconscious doesn't understand time. Your subconscious doesn't understand that you're now a grown woman with your own children, or a grown woman in her own life, that you're not this 5-year-old anymore.
Wow. Gosh. And I think too, with our parents and our grandparents, I like to see it as that they live on autopilot. Like I always talk about the subconscious and autopilot. So you I'm sure there's parents out there that can relate to this, is even me, sometimes I've said some sayings, just some phrases, and I've been like, oh my God, that's my mum. That's like, and you just have this feeling. And I'm sure there's a lot of mums smiling or laughing at the moment going, oh my God, yeah, I can resonate, Barb's. Like, I have heard something come out of my mouth and it has been my mother or my grandmother. And so part of that is, especially parenting, there's no right or wrong, and you got to look at the little person in front of you and parent to that little person. And I'm not a mum, but I've been through enough to basically know, and the work I've done to know how to treat a little human properly. And that's all. They're a little person and they have their own thoughts and feelings, and you need to parent to that particular little person. But one thing I wanted to ask you too, as you just spoke about, and I just know because I know there's a lot of people that are listening that this may be the first time that they really understand what inner child is. And you mentioned something called shadow work. Is that just another term for inner child, or is that something else?
So I hear both of the terms interchangeably. I use them interchangeably. The internal family systems is a therapy system that's used, and that's becoming more popular in the States. It's been around for decades, but it's becoming more and more prominent now. But internal family systems labels that we have 3 parts of ourselves. One of them is the shadow part, and one of them is the protector part. And so the shadow part is essentially where those emotions are stored, those emotions that were too much for our caregivers, that we didn't properly process and move through, get stored in the shadow part, which is essentially our inner child. Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. So how the inner child develops is through that first 7 years or so of, I always explain it to my clients as if, because some people are quite visual, so I kind of explain it to them. And again, this is no scientific, this is just a Barbara explanation, but I kind of think of it as the top of our head is open, and everything we smell, everything we see, everything we touch, every comment we hear, every single human, whether it's a conversation behind us at the supermarket of 2 people arguing, whether it's we're at a barbecue or a family gathering and we hear our cousins say something, or we hear something on the radio. That's how powerful that first 7 years of our life is. And I just kind of think of it that we've got a sponge in our head. Like we've got the open hole, and it's probably a bit graphic, but open hole if anyone's having breakfast or dinner or something, but you've got a hole in your head, and then you've got a sponge sitting in there, right? And every single thing for that, even when you're in your mum's tummy, even that's so important. The sponge is beginning in there. So your brain's open, your brain's forming. Everything you hear, you are like, okay, that's how I talk to people. That's this is love. This is not love. This is, I don't know, all that. It's like a rule book, kind of like a rule book. And then after 7 years, I kind of think of the roof closing, and it's like a vault. And then you've got that vault forever. And if you don't do any work, that is where your, thoughts, beliefs, values, everything. And I just explain it to people that way, because sometimes we can say, like therapy talk, you do the work in the inner child and stuff, but sometimes I like to take it really back to basics and think of me, give it to me how I can kind of see it. And when you explain it like that, I think it's like, it is scary. Like it's kind of the real basic. Holy hell, that means that first 7 years of that kid, you can't wrap them in cotton wool, but that's how sensitive these little humans are. They're just these little sponges.
They are. And that's a beautiful analogy. I absolutely love that. Because it's true. And I mean, as a mom, especially I have an 18-month-old now, and I think of like the things that I'm still working through that I thought that I had healed with my daughter, and now that I'm coming back through it again, it's like, well, you healed the surface, but now let's dig a little bit deeper. And it can be terrifying because it's like, well,
Yeah.
hell, I am just screwing this kid up.
It sucks, doesn't it? Because
It does.
It's kind of BS that you do the work and yay, we're better, or we're good, or we've got this, and it's never ending. And even with myself, I think, yeah, I've nailed this, and then something happens, and you literally feel like it's so interesting. You feel like you've gone back to square one. Oh my gosh, everything I've done, I haven't learned anything. Oh my gosh, I'm repeating the same pattern. But then when you step away, you haven't. You're so much more forward than you've ever thought.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're so negative on ourselves and so hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
Especially as a parent, you want to get it right. You want to give your child love. You want to give them the best start. Like that's such a beautiful thing. But we crap on ourselves straight away. It's like, oh my gosh, what am I doing to this child? Here I am. I thought I've done the work. Oh, I haven't. I have to go deeper, which is like, I'm human, you're human. I know I've had moments where I'm like, oh, I'm not doing this, and then I have fleeting moments where I think, oh, I wish I'd never started because then I don't have to feel anything, and I can just be like everyone else in the world who blocks it with booze or like whatever. Like let me pick my poison and just block everything out, because there is that beautiful world of no awareness, not knowing, and the bliss. It's not bliss. It's really hard. But
yeah,
I just have little fantasy moments where I think, oh, I wish I hadn't opened this can of worms.
Yeah, I do have moments like that where you feel like, man, this like there's no welcome to your healed self. You've arrived. There's not going to be a welcome
sign. A club. Maybe we should start this worldwide club that people that do work, we have like little weekly meetings where we just give each other high fives and be like, welcome to the club.
Right. Welcome to the next stage.
Yeah, level up. We've still got another 2,400 steps to go.
Yeah, it really is fascinating that there really is no destination. It is a journey. And once you start, you keep going. And it's like once you start, you can't stop. You can't go back to not knowing.
I'm not laughing because I'm resonating, guys. I'm not laughing because it's funny. It's just, it's probably my sick sense of humor that I'm just laughing because I'm resonating, going, "Yep, you're so right."
But it is for the people sitting here going, "Well, then why the heck would I start?" It is so worth it. It really is, because, like you said, like it's not bliss to be that ignorant person who has no idea. You're deeply unhappy being that person. You are numbing with something, whether it's food or drugs or sex or alcohol, whatever. You're numbing the human experience. And to go through this journey is to really open yourself up to all of the human emotions and the depth of, but for me, it was like the depth of love that I didn't know existed. And it's hard some days, but this hard is so much easier than the old hard.
Yeah. And for me, it was the depth of being okay as you are, and people got to love you as you are, how you show up, no matter what. And it's the unconditional love, which I've never had love. So that for me is just showing up as you are. It doesn't matter, because the right people around you will always love you.
Yeah.
Will always be there for you. So what are some signs that the inner child needs healing? How do we know?
Okay. So if you are a person who is always saying yes when you really want to say no. When you like you're a people pleaser, if that's your default mode, and you're continuously finding that you're suffering yourself, um, because you're constantly doing favors for other people, right? That's a sign that there's something going on with your inner child. Or you struggle to ask for help. You feel like you have to be the person who does it all, that you can't trust somebody to do something, whether because they're unreliable or whatever it is, right? There's a message there that you received as a child. Lacking boundaries or not feeling good enough in some way, or feel even the opposite end of that, feeling like you're too much. Like I can't express how I feel because my emotions are too much for them to handle. For me, the big sign was that the default emotion is anger, that you really don't feel anything else other than anger. And that anger is masking something else underneath, but you're unable to access what's there. Like what's that fear and what's the driving emotion behind the anger. Having an addiction, depression, anxiety, these are all signs that like your subconscious is holding on to something that's standing in the way from you tapping into a healthier version of yourself. Other things that were big for me is that you're overly controlling, that you micromanage everybody, right? That goes back to like struggling to ask for help and trusting people, and then struggling to receive feedback from others, right? If somebody comes to you and they are upset with something that you said or something that you did, and you get defensive and you can't hear that feedback, and you turn it into an argument, that's a really big sign that there's some wounding there.
Yeah. And I think too, how you really beautifully shared with us at the beginning that when you did this work, now you're in a marriage which you never thought was even possible. And I think from my own experience of therapy too, is it changes you so much that it changes what you do for work. It changes, again, I'm just going to say how it is, as I always do on here. I'm not going to filter anything. From what I notice, the people that do this work, it has a ripple effect through their whole life, through your friendship group, through the partners, through the marriages, through the work you do as in your career, your hobbies, and everyone you connect with. It's such a cool thing, because I don't get it right all the time, and I'd be interested to see what you feel and do about this too. But when I meet people now, I've got the tools to be like, yep, you're my person, or you're not my person, or no, I don't feel like that today. Like I can say no. Hey, I'm really good at it now. I can say no all the time, but also I'm honoring myself, and it just ripples out to, like, it's changed my life. It's changed how I talk to myself, still working on that, how I talk to other people, a bit more patience for people, again, working on that one too. But yeah, it gives you this appreciation to see my life and other people's life in a different way, and to be more open, and just to be myself. But it's just interesting, because the choices I make now, the people who are close to me, are the most beautiful people I've ever had in my whole, like you said, with your husband. It's like you hear about people having nice friendships or good people around you, and I'm not good at receiving, and that's something that this year I'm trying to get better at, as I always have to give out. And if I receive, I'm always like, oh, yeah, but what can I do for you? Someone's like, hey, I'll help you with this session, or whatever, how small it is. I'll come and sweep your driveway. Cool. Okay. Well, can I wash your windows? Like, you know what I mean? I'm just giving an example, but I can't just sit with it and for someone to do something nice to me, because I have never had it, but I just feel uncomfortable as anything. And I want to be able to give something back to them, to be like, cool, okay, we are balanced, there's no, so that's what has come up for me as well.
Yeah, it really is profound. For me, I had a very difficult relationship with my parents um, growing up, and even in adulthood, like where there was a lot of eye rolling. There was a lot of like, yeah, okay, like I just put up with my parents. And since I started doing my work, it has actually allowed me to extend grace to them because I now understand who they are as people on a different level. And they're not able to do the work, like they have their own blocks to it, which was really frustrating for me in the beginning because it's like, but do the work and you'll let go of this thing that's really blocking you in your life. So that was another thing that I had to overcome. But the relationship that I have with my parents now is more accepting of
Mm.
who they are as people. And I don't carry as much resentment for them as I did. Like my teenage years, I resented my parents. And I know that that's like a normal part of teenage years also, but it carried over into my adulthood where it was like, I can't believe you did this to me. And this is the life that I'm living because of you. And I realized, no, you need to take ownership over what your life is right now. Heal whatever it is that's going on for you that they couldn't give to you. And also try to understand where they were coming from as parents. And so as I dove into my own work, I started diving into my parents' childhoods. I actually wrote a book. It's not published yet, but I'm hoping next year in 2024 that it will be published, where I explored my parents' childhoods, and it opened a whole new level of healing for me because it allowed me to see how they were as parents. It was not about me. My dad didn't disappear because of something that I did.
Yeah.
It was my dad had his own baggage, his own stuff, his own inability to love, and he couldn't handle being a parent. It had nothing to do with me though. And so it's just the work really deepens all of your relationships, and it weeds out the ones that are not going to work, the ones that are not right for you. And like you said, like you are better connected to your intuition and your inner knowing, that you can very quickly assess like, oh, this new person that I just met, they're not for me, moving on. And you don't get it right 100% of the time, but
No.
you're far more successful now than you were a decade ago, I'm sure.
Yeah. But rather it being years, it can take maybe 2 or 3 weeks or 3 months. And then I go, oh, I've done it again. Okay. And that will happen to me. It's a very strong lesson for me, and it will keep happening because I am who I am too. So I don't want to be closed off. I want to meet people and be open, and that's part of who I am. But also at the same time, that's what's got me into not great times with people, is because I have been open and vulnerable and have had a lot of love. But that's at my core. That's who I am. That's my essence. So I'm not going to change that for anyone. But now there's been a couple of times where I've gone, oh, that's that person again. Hello, I know who you are. And I'm just going to slowly retract myself. So
Yeah.
those people they will constantly come up in my life just to give me the middle finger and go, ha, 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 and I just take it as a compliment that I know what I'm doing. So if someone's listening to this and thinking, I am that mum that could do with some inner child healing, or I'm a person that could do with some inner child healing because I'm not happy with my life, or I am a chronic people pleaser, and when I actually take a moment after listening to this podcast, and if someone's thinking about their life, what do they want to do in 12 months? Do you know how many people I see that when I ask them, what would you like your life to look like in 12 months and in 5 years?
They can't tell you.
Crickets, silence, which is okay. I love that because I know, great, I can help you with this. But that's what I would like, if someone's listening to this now, it's not even financial stuff sometimes. It's not material things. It's, what do you want your life to look like and to feel like and to visualize it? And, it sucks. Like somewhere along the lines of, kids with imaginations, and we used to like build little tents with, furniture with the sheets, and we used to hide in the tents and play for hours, or our imagination, grow up, or being silly. or you can't have it all, or like, oh, I want to be the president. Oh, don't be stupid. All that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I want to bring people's imaginations back. I want them to dream. I want them to do whatever they want to do, and to, after this podcast, really have a think about, what do I want? What do I want? What do I need? And what do I want my life to look like? And part of that may be, why would someone consider inner child healing? If someone's listening to this now, what's something that you can help them with, that they may be like, yeah, I'm going to do this work?
So we touched on this a little bit, but the inner child, a wounded inner child, can impact our attachment to other people, our self-worth, the treatment that we accept from others, the careers that we choose for ourselves. It really affects all aspect of our lives. And you're talking about like the being unable to visualize this life that they want for themselves, because they are closed off from that imagination, because it has been shut down for them. They be realistic, that, like those little things, like the things that you hear somebody say as a child that gets stuck in your head of like, oh, I can't do that. I can't be an author. I can't be an artist because that's not realistic. That's not a steady job, whatever it is, whatever that message is. But for somebody who might want to be considering doing inner child healing, it's about recognizing that you're at a place in your life that is so different than what you thought your life would look like when you were a kid, when you could imagine this different life. And maybe you're not able to do it right now, but one of the things that I do with my clients is I walk them through an exercise, and sometimes it takes more than one session to do this, and a session between, work between sessions. But to walk them through, like, if they come to me in terms of parenting, like my parenting situation is not what I want it to be. Because that's usually very, it's tactile. It's like, I'm living this right now. And I know that the mom I'm showing up as every day is not the woman that I want to be. I make this promise that I'm going to be present with my kids, that I'm not going to yell at them. And then by breakfast, you're screaming at them to hurry the hell up. We're going to be late. Like, it's not what you want it to be. And so I help them to look at like, okay, well, who's the mom you want to be? What does that mom look like? What are the things that she does on a day-to-day basis? How does she talk to her kids? Is she baking for her kids, or is she at school functions? Is she volunteering in the child's classroom? Like, what does that mom look like? And now look at where you are right now. What characteristics does that mom have that you feel that you don't have? And so we go through this exercise to kind of help them build this vision. And like I said, it's easier for women to do it in terms of parenting. But once you get them going with this is what I want my parenting to look like, then you can start to help them kind of tease out this other vision of like, what does life look like outside of that? What does your relationship look like with your partner? What does your parenting relationship look like with your partner? And so then you can kind of start like building like these levels of, first I start my parenting, then I look at my relationship with my partner. If I have a partner, if I don't have a partner, what do I want in a partner? What am I trying to call in? And then the next part of the work is really, you have this vision, you've identified these characteristics of this woman who you want to be, but you wouldn't be able to visualize and dream of that person if you didn't already embody those characteristics within you. You just need to uncover them. And so then we work to uncover and kind of just like, it's like weeding, like pulling out, like, what is the crap that's on top that's blocking that version of yourself from coming forward?
That's so amazing. Every time I hear that stuff, I just get so excited. Oh, it's just amazing. So if someone wants to get started, how can they get started? And what will this type of healing look like? Is it the same for all of us?
I think the process of connecting with your inner child can have similarities between us. For me and my experience with clients, the easiest way to connect with our inner child might be to approach from a place of joy, a place of, what did you enjoy doing as a child? And giving yourself permission to experience those things, because it kind of brings out like that inner playfulness, that allows you to kind of remind yourself of like, oh yeah, like I'm actually a cool person. um, and I have like fun quirks about me that like maybe my kids want to do this painting class with me, like whatever, just something like that. But I also lead clients through meditation to tap into our inner selves, and I take them to like a visualization that like you're walking through a field and you see a child, and that child that looks like you when you were a kid. Right. And so it's helping you as an adult sit with your child self. And I always recommend that my clients have a picture of themselves from when they were a child, because it's really easy to visualize yourself when you're looking at a picture of yourself. So that's just like connecting with the inner child. But as far as doing the inner child work, and trying to find the areas that need the healing, the first thing that I have clients do is to start to build awareness. So every day, just checking in with yourself. And if you're not a journaler, that's fine. But just doing like a mental check of like, what was my dominant emotion today? What was I feeling for a majority of the day? Was there anything that was overwhelming to me today? Was there an emotion that I feel like I was trying to stuff down? Like, do I feel a tightness anywhere in my body? And if I do feel that tightness, why? What am I holding there? What from my day is built up there? Because the more you're able to bring awareness to your physical body, the better you're able to start connecting events that have happened throughout your day to that sensation in your body. And then you're able to start looking at like, well, why was my emotional reaction what it was? Why did I feel that way? Was there a message that was behind it? Right? All of our experiences are filtered through this inner child. They're filtered through our internal representation of what we've built based on our memories, our beliefs, our values. And so when we have an interaction with somebody, we're recalling all of those past experiences and the messages and the lessons that we've learned from them. We're bringing them into where we are right now. And so when you build awareness and you're checking in with your body, you can start to make those connections to past messages, and you can start to uncover like, oh, there's something here. There's a pattern here. I mean, one of the reasons why I like journaling is that you're then able to look back and say like, over the last month, I've felt this anger 5 out of the 7 days of every week. What's there? What's underneath the anger, right? So you could start to identify patterns. But it all starts with awareness. It all starts with paying attention to your body, getting to know yourself, right? That's what it comes back to, because a lot of times we're in adulthood, and if you're unhappy with something that's going on in your life, you are disconnected from your authentic self. You have shut off a part of yourself, and the more you can bring your awareness back to that, you can start to turn yourself back on and get back online in those areas.
Mm. Yeah, that's really powerful. And I'm like you too. I found some journals the other day dating back 4.5, 5 years ago. And I didn't do it. I still don't do it every day. Again, that's something I'm working on. But I looked back just sat down on the floor and opened them up and read page after page. And it was really hard for me to read it. It was really dark. It was really, really sad and really hard. And I was like, even though I have moments of feeling low or feeling upset, but it's a different level. And for me to reflect back and read those words, I was like, wow. So I could see how far, because we don't see it. It's like when you're kids. I've got, I've got a particular friend who sent me a photo of her nieces last night. And I'm sure the last time she sent me a photo, one of them was a baby and now she's a toddler. And I'm like, is that the baby? Like it literally felt like yesterday. And that's the thing, is we can get caught up and time just goes by. And then by journaling, a lot of people see it as homework, but put your comfy pajamas on, or light a candle, or put some cool music on, or go down to the park, or like, it doesn't have to be homework. It doesn't, if you don't want to do it, find something else, like talking to your phone, do a voice note. But I actually am glad I wrote, and one day I'll write, like you, I'll write a book about that and put that stuff in there. But I read it and was like, wow, I forgot that I felt like that back then. And that's really, wow, that's so powerful. I wrote that.
Right. It really is. There's such power. First, like I am all for like if journaling is not your thing, to do the voice memos, to write in the notes app on your phone. There is a lot of scientific evidence that the hand to mind connection can really open channels of healing that aren't accessible to us through verbal speaking and typing, but it still makes a difference. So it may not be as powerful, but it's still better than not doing it.
Yeah.
And so just a couple of, so something about the journaling that came up for me as you were talking, going back and looking at the journals and seeing how dark it is. I had that same experience. And I don't know if you've heard of Gabby Bernstein. She said something like offhand one day in one of her podcasts or something that I watched with her, where she just told somebody, just write until the love comes through. And that stuck with me, that now at the top of every single one of my journal pages, it says, write until the love comes through. Because all of my journal entries, like I go to my journal when I'm feeling a certain way, when I'm feeling like that dark energy, that chaotic, heavy energy. And all of my journal entries were like, screw this, I hate everybody.
Yeah.
Right?
Relate. Yeah. This sucks. I hate my life or whatever. Yeah. Yep.
Right. But now with that reminder up at the top, all of my journal entries start with that heavy, chaotic energy. But then somewhere along the way, it transitions to, but this is why you're feeling that way. And here's a solution to what you can do. And maybe you don't have the solution right now, but here's this affirmation that you can sit with today. And like it just has transformed my journaling into more of a healing space. Like there's power in doing that dump of that heavy, dark energy, because you don't want that living inside of you. But then taking it to the next level and being able to transform it, it really is an experience that's like, it's changed my relationship with journaling.
Do you do it every day, or when you feel drawn to it?
I would do it every day if I didn't have an 18-month-old.
Okay. Yeah.
But sometimes, so on that note, one of the things that I do find is that if I'm in a place where like I'm reaching for my phone to text a friend because I'm outraged about something, instead of opening the text to a friend, I open the text that I have with myself and I send it to myself. So that it acts like that journal, and that happens every day, right? I text a friend every day, so I can text myself every day. So I do some form of writing every day.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what's one piece of advice or something that you'd like to give to my listeners today, but I think without even me asking you, you've just beautifully delivered that gift, that if you're feeling a feeling and you want to go on like a rant to someone, or you want to go, oh my God, this has just happened, message it to yourself. So you're actually still, it's called brain dump for a reason. It's like getting it out, because if you don't get it out, where does it go? It just keeps manifesting, keeps swirling, swirling, swirling. And because we're human beings and we're hardwired negative, I really say that almost in every blooming podcast, because that was my light bulb moment when I was in therapy and she said to me, it was like you said, Gabby's thing was just an off the cuff thing. My therapist said, "Oh, did you know, Barbara, that we're hardwired negative?" And I was like, "What?" And then she explained to me the brain and everything. And I went, "Are you kidding me? Like, I'm 38 years old and I'm just finding this out now. I thought I was just this real negative, not good enough, thought it was a me thing. And I didn't realize it was a human condition. And that was just like, you have to work hard every day to give love to yourself, to be more positive, to be not positive, but to be more encouraging in yourself. And every single time you want to do something, your default setting is you can't do it, you're not good enough, you're shit, it's negative, negative, dark. And that is just how our brain is wired, because it's only wired to do one thing. Am I going to get eaten today by a tiger, or am I not going to get eaten today? That's like all our brain is made to do. So that was my changing moment, is just like, I remember feeling like I was like, what? How is this not taught? I was so, I just couldn't believe it. And that's what dove me into doing the work I do now. I went, if I didn't know about this, surely someone else doesn't know about this. When I share it with my clients, they're like, and it's almost like gives it a bit of ease. This is how easy this is. Once you're aware that every time you shit on yourself, every time that you're so hard or you're negative or that really dark voice, I want someone listening to this thinking, tune in. What is the voice? Is it negative? Is it a man or a woman talking to you? Is it yelling at you? Is it soft? Is it screaming at you? Like, what colors come up with it? And just doing that, and even that in itself, naming it.
Yes.
Harry's here to see me again. I don't know, like whatever you want to put to it. No one needs to know you're doing this. But that's hang on, who is this again? Is this Barbara's brain, or is it that negative Harry coming back? Yeah, okay. So it's even just the awareness in that piece to just recognize that.
Yeah, it really is all awareness and getting to know yourself, and being able to. Now, one of the things that I tell my clients about the awareness is that in the beginning, and for every single wound that you're going to heal, in the beginning, your awareness is going to come after the fact. It's going to come after you've lost your shit on somebody. It's going to come after you have checked out and detached from the moment.
Yeah.
But that there's still power in you saying, "Oh, that didn't go the way that I wanted it to go." Because the more you bring awareness to it, the more you're able to bring the awareness then into the moment. Like, for some of my wounding, I can now sense the sensations in my body building up, and I'm able to excuse myself from a situation before it even gets to the point where I open my mouth, right? But it didn't start there. It starts at the back end of the situation. But it's all about awareness.
Oh, honestly, it's been a really great chat today, isn't it? Like, we've just really uncovered a lot of stuff and shared our personal experience, and I've really enjoyed it. Thank you, Tina. And I'm sure a lot of people have. I like to, on my podcast, just talk about things as they are, no fancy terms, to be real, to be authentic, and to be this place that someone is listening to this going, cool, there's someone out there that if they never meet us, they might pick up one thing that they can learn or can resonate or just feel connected. They don't feel so alone. And I think you've really helped them today with that. So thank you.
Thank you. This conversation, I told you I just came off a coaching call right before we got on, and I felt lit up, and like now, like my lit upness is so much greater than it was an hour ago. So like this was a beautiful conversation, and I really hope that your listeners can find that one little nugget that they can take away from this and start their journey if they haven't already.
Yeah, and so we can keep an eye when you're releasing your book. And if anyone's listening to this and they want to know more about the inner child or to come and work with you, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
So I mostly hang out on Instagram. And so my handle is at the period burnt period bean. So BURNT bean, with periods between all the words. And I also have a website, www.theburntbean.com/connect. And so that website will link you to all of my things.
Cool. Okay. And I'll put the link in the show notes and on the post when I release this episode today. But I could literally hear you say burnt bean all day. I don't know. I love your accent. I've got this special connection with the States. I say that to every guest that I have that's out your way. Something in it that I'm just like, oh, I wish I could sound like that. I just love it. I just love it. So thank you for making my day. I know it's something so little, but I could listen to you say it all day.
Oh, well, thank you.
But it's been really nice we've had conversations and this is the first time we've met. So, I really look forward to us continuing this connection and relationship and, sharing our journeys with each other. And it's been a really nice conversation today. So thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. It really has. And I look forward to that too.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and it has inspired you on your self-care journey. Please feel free to share this with a friend and subscribe over on Apple Podcast. I really love hearing your feedback. So guys, please feel free to write a review on Apple and let me know which part of this episode resonated with you the most. To fall in love with yourself is the first secret to happiness. To find out a bit more about Self-Care Studio or the Studio Chat podcast, head over to my Instagram page, self_care_studio, or on my website, selfcarebybarbarathompson.com.au. Really look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Look after you. And I'll catch you soon. Bye!